Welcome to Small Business Big Visibility. This is part of a series on websites. Today we're talking specifically about the website header. Now we've talked about several different topics already in this series. We have several more great videos coming out helping you as a business owner understand the critical parts of a website so that without spending a ton of time researching, you can have the right knowledge in your brain so that your website can level up, it can help you get more customers, you can be more profitable, and you can have a more successful business. Now today, like I said, we're talking about the website header, and there's not a lot to this, so this is probably going to be one of the shorter episodes that we put out, but it is a critical part of a website, and when it's done wrong, it's not cool. Now there's one thing to know. When websites were first originally built, they were built for screens that were kind of a square size or maybe a slight rectangle. But since that first began, the whole world of websites has just shifted substantially. Now, a website needs to look good on a TV screen, on a desktop, which the desktop, it could be anywhere like 40, 60 inches wide down to most are kind of in that 32, 28 range. Laptops, a little bit smaller, they're typically 14 to 16 inches. Then you get down to tablets, which can range anywhere from like 7 inches up to 11 or 12 most of the time. And then smallest, but most important, and there's several reasons for that, it has to look good on a mobile device. The mobile device, typically, you're holding it in your hands, you know what size that is, that's what everybody's using all day, every day. It's most important because search engines, one, are looking at your website from that mobile perspective, not from any other perspective when they want to make sure that your website's doing a great job. That's the key element they look at, not all the others. So it has to look good on a mobile device. That's critical. That's a big change from several years ago, where mobile devices weren't used that much for websites. So if a website has to look good on a mobile device, the header has to look good on a mobile device. There's been some mistakes I've seen where a website will have a header that looks really good on a desktop, but it doesn't translate to a cell phone very well. Some instances of that are when you have a website and you have the header at the top, but then as you start scrolling, the header stays at the top no matter how far you go down. That can be really helpful when it's done right. But both on a desktop and on mobile devices, sometimes the header is so big that it's blocking you from being able to see as much of the content on the site. That's something to be aware of, especially on a mobile device. There was one header in particular that comes to mind that I saw. It was using a third of the screen. Insane. 1/3 of the screen was the header. If you scrolled down, that header stayed there. It was taking up 1/3 of your screen and it wasn't that helpful. That is not a good header. You don't want a header to use up 1/3 of your mobile device's screen. Go check out your website. See if it looks good on a mobile device. See if when you scroll, if it stays stagnant, and if it does, is it using up a big part of that real estate on the page? If it is, it's not a good user experience. Now, some people, when they're building their header, want the logo to be huge front and center. Your customers probably don't care about your logo as much as you do. It might hurt. If it does, go rub some salve in it, get over it. Nobody cares about your logo as much as you do, almost ever. Don't make the logo huge. That huge logo is going to make your header too big. People don't care about the header. It's critical, but it needs to be tucked up at the top, away from everything else. Now, on every header, you should have a few key elements, and there's a few pages that don't have a header, and we can talk about that, but those usually are not local service pages. Now, if you're looking at a website, on the top left part of that page, you're going to have the logo, and it should be small enough that it's not taking over the page. It should be big enough that people can understand it. One issue that people often have is they'll make their logo a vertical logo, and when it's a vertical logo, it's going to push that entire header down to where it's taking up a ton of the page again. When that's the case, that you have a vertical logo, what you can sometimes do is you can actually redesign that logo so that you have the icon and then the words to the side of it, and that creates a horizontal style logo. A lot of businesses will have both a vertical logo and a horizontal logo so that depending on the circumstance, they can use the one that's most appropriate. If your logo is super tall, consider readjusting it a little bit. Have a designer work with you on that to get it so it can be horizontal, take up more of that horizontal real estate and less of the vertical real estate. The next portion that every website has is navigation. Website navigation typically include home, which, interesting little note, the logo should also link back to the home page. That's become standard. If someone clicks on that logo, takes them back to the home page. But oftentimes you'll have the home as one option, about, services. If you have a gallery, you want it there, contact us. What about all the other pages? Most of the time, they don't need to be in the top navigation. You can have 1,000 pages on your site, but you want that top navigation to be very clean so that it's a nice journey for your customers and they're not getting lost all over the place, especially for a local service-based business. The other critical component that pretty much every header should have, especially if you're a small business, is you should have your phone number in the header, oftentimes right up in the top right corner. So logo in the left, phone number in the top right. Makes it easy for people to see how to contact you. Why does that matter? Well, we all want customers, right? If you want more people to reach out to you, make it easy for them to find how to reach you. That's the anatomy of a successful header. There's usually not a lot of other elements that you want in your header. You don't want it overly fancy. You want it to be fairly plain so that it fades into the background and isn't overbearing. Typically, you don't want a lot of graphics. Sometimes it makes sense to put an address or some other information up in the header, but you want to keep it pretty minimal, especially because as you move from a desktop screen down to the phone, and you're going to want that header to collapse down and use very little space. Oftentimes that means you have to have a very small logo that still looks good, and then people will use the hamburger menu icon, those 2 to 3 lines, to represent we have a menu. You click on that to open it, but you want the phone number. This is the part that's so crazy to me with the phone number. I've seen so many businesses that have the phone number on a desktop but not on a phone. How absurd is that? They're literally on the device that can call you, and they remove the option to call from the header. You want that phone number to stay in the header so that it's easy for them to contact you, whether you're on a mobile, you're on a TV, laptop, doesn't matter. You want that phone number so that it's so easy for them to take that next step to become your customer.